Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Anastasia Bashaliva, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Shrey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to chat or post any questions for our guests. A quick greetings to our viewers from Victor Fett, and he will introduce today's guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Greetings, everyone. We are in 177th week of our podcast, 1,241 days of full-scale war, and I'm very honored to welcome back our contributor and friend, amazing Anastasia Bard from New Jersey, United States, with her group called Helping Hands for Ukraine, humanitarian help for Ukraine. Anastasia, please, the screen is yours and microphone is yours. Please, Anastasia, your screen is frozen right now. If you reload, please.
Hear me because there's some delays on my part. Hopefully you can hear me fine now, and I missed
Yes.
all of that. Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
You are
I'm just
fine.
going to go ahead because I couldn't hear that introduction. I'm sure it was fabulous, and thank you. I'm sure you were also too generous. It's my honor to be here. And the one thing I just want to start off was that, it doesn't matter how many people are watching. Sometimes it may be just 2 or 3, right? Just us even. But the commitment of showing up, the commitment of not giving up is something that to me personally resonates and is the most important. So it's not about quantity in terms of how many people watch. I think it's about quantity of how much do you yourself continue to do, which is why I'm here. So I'm Ukrainian American. I came to the United States. I was almost 15. I've been here more than 30 years. And the war was something that certainly was a very personal thing that happened to our family because I was born there, my husband was born there, and my dad lives there. So I'm going to show some pictures of what it's like to be an American or Ukrainian American dealing with a war. A year ago, almost in August of last year, I went to Ukraine because I needed to see my dad. He's very brief in explaining of how he's doing. So I needed to see, is he healthy? Is he okay? Is he really saying what he is doing and how he's feeling? So that's me on my first minutes of arriving in Kyiv, Ukraine. And this is Kyiv, Ukraine in July of 2025. So it's been a year of things going more surreal, more difficult, and the bombings intensifying. And the strangest thing is that and I mean me and my husband and my closest friends still get questions. Is the war in Ukraine still going on? So this is where I'm coming from. I'm coming in here as a volunteer, as an activist, as someone who is trying to help, but also trying to raise awareness, because this just happened 2 weeks ago. And I actually know a person who lived in this large apartment building. So cannot get more personal than this, right? And also it's really difficult. It's difficult to wake up and think about, this is my dad on the left, my cousin on the right, and his son. His son was 11 when I took his picture. He's 12. And they cannot sleep through the night. Every night there are bombings. Last night wasn't too bad, but kids, whether it's summer vacation or school days, it doesn't matter. Kids have to get up and go to shelters in the middle of the day in small cities and large cities. Some people don't do it, but it just kills me to think about this, where it's not just millions of people across the ocean, it's my family. And this is my family in the United States, right? So I fragment my life between going to a museum in New York City, having two amazing teenagers, and my husband, Konstantin, and how we cope with all of this duality and just fragmentation, compartmentalization, is that we organize charity events. We try to pack aid. We try sometimes to distract ourselves and sometimes to focus and commit. This is my daughter this week. She's heading to college at the end of August, but while she has some free time, she helps me and other volunteers to pack aid. And I can't think of a better way of trying to bring up a human being, is to say we should care. Obviously, it's easy for me to care. My dad is in Ukraine, right? But she's an American-born teenager. She doesn't speak Ukrainian, but she understands that wars hit many different places around the world. And this is what, to me, humanity is. There's two of my daughters on this picture. And then there's a girl whose parents are from Russia. They're not even Ukrainian. So does it matter where you come from? Should you still help? Should you volunteer? Obviously, the answer is obvious to me, but maybe it's not so obvious to someone else. Natalie is 15, and she grew up since she was 12, seeing medical emergency supplies, what tourniquets are, what is hemostatic bandage. It's something you put inside a wound to soak up blood. Do I want my child at 12 to know this? No, I really don't. It just happened that way because it was part of our lives for the last 3.5 years. But that's what it's like right now to be Ukrainian American. And we're very lucky to have many friends who are, or we've made many friends. It's not that we were even aware of this, but they are doctors and they work for big hospitals that discard some of the things you see on the picture. All of this would be incinerated and burned at the end of each surgical day. And some friends are able to bring these things home. It is perfectly legal. It's just not something that's an official necessarily route, but they donate all these materials. We sort them, and they go to 4 different hospitals. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to, put into the actual sorting and carrying. And constantly, whenever you work with your hands, Ukraine's on my mind. But what we spent money on, because a year ago we opened an official charity, and we actually now have donations that are official and a nonprofit, 501c3, all of that stuff. We buy tourniquets and bandages and medical kits, and that's Natalie with, you're looking at approximately $7,000 right now on that picture, because each tourniquet that's in the box next to her knee, that's $24, and each soldier needs 3 of them. These American-made, certified, the best and the easiest to put on with one hand if you're injured in the other. That's pretty much why American tourniquets are the best. It's not just that they hold better than others, they're easier to use in an emergency. And this is the picture that a friend had sent from Kyiv. That's her house. On July 9th, there were quite a few drones and rockets, and she wrote me messages which I didn't even know how to respond to. It took me 24 hours to write back, because it's not easy to read a message that says, I had fallen on my kids. She has 2 children, about 9 and 12, I think. And each time there was a new explosion, I kept hugging them more, not getting up and holding them down. How do you read something like this from a person you know? These are obviously extreme cases. Not every single person falls on top of her kids to save them, but it does happen. It happens in big cities and in big buildings and small buildings. No one's safe, which I think is the hardest part of living in Ukraine, is that this Iranian drone, and I'm not a military expert, I also believe in making things very simple and clear that I share with others. So I had to understand for myself, what are these drones everyone speaks of? What is being launched at Ukrainian cities? So an Iranian drone, it's if you look at the picture at the bottom right, it's a little, well, twice as tall, twice as big as a human being. So it's not very small drone. It's not something that's the size of those amateur drones we sometimes see over the sky in New Jersey. And they're launched in clusters. So you can see a truck here launching 5 at a time. But usually Russians launch about 500 drones a night in different directions. So you might not get 500 over Kiev, but at the same time, you will get enough where you're in constant fear and stress trying to figure out what's coming and where is it going. They change locations, the alerts keep changing. You're in a situation of never-ending stress. And that's, if you're on your own, maybe that's manageable. But if you're fearing for the lives of your little kids, I can't even imagine. This is what a semi-destroyed Iranian drone looks like in size in comparison to Ukrainian soldier. And the scariest thing is not the drones. They take quite a long time, a few hours to get to where you are from the Russian border. The scariest thing is the missiles, because first of all, they're very fast. It takes a few seconds sometimes to get from the Black Sea to Kyiv. And they're also more precise and a lot more destructive. So, for example, if you get an alert in the capital, Kyiv, rockets are coming our way, you don't have enough time to run even to the metro a few blocks away if that's your bomb shelter, which is for my dad, who is 73. And he can't even run, right? And he also refuses to do it every night. So he stays in his apartment. He chooses sometimes to go into the hallway, which doesn't have windows, but it's these rockets and missiles. I had to Google how many does Russia have left after a very brave attack. And we don't really know, but there's enough. There's enough. Sometimes they launch a few, sometimes they launch more. Sometimes they don't, Russia doesn't launch any per night, but it's never easy. And I just wanted to show you, obviously not everyone can read Ukrainian. I had to learn. I started learning Ukrainian 2 years ago after completely forgetting it, after living in the United States. But I made it a point of staying in direct touch with people in Ukraine that we help for accountability, but also to understand myself what is most needed. Because I hate waste. I hate wasting money. I hate wasting time. I don't hate people, but I do very much focus on being effective. So to me, being in touch with Ukrainian medics, Ukrainian doctors directly takes enormous amount of time. But then at the end of the day, I know I didn't just rely on second or third source, sort of third-hand sources. I've done the legwork myself. So these are an exchange with a military medic who served for 3 years. She got pregnant and had a baby, and she's recently went on maternity about 2 months ago. And she's sharing with me, well, first we exchanged pictures of the baby and how beautiful she is. And then she talks about how a factory in her town was completely destroyed and how the baby was shaking each time there was an explosion. That is not easy to process. And that's how newborns are growing up. And I have to say the PR machine on both sides, for better or worse, really works. I really like how Ukrainians have gotten better at making things visible and clear about what has happened overnight. It doesn't mean people know about it, but for example, this is on specifically June 17th of 2025. There was a very clear picture of how many missiles were launched, how many drones were launched, and how many people were killed. There were 14 people killed and more than 100 injured. And we can talk about all we want about what's going on in Washington, about what's going on in Moscow. You can have any political opinion you want. We can discuss the map of Ukraine, what territory is now being taken over by the Russian forces and controlled by them. But it's not about, to me, it's not about the territories. It's not about the politics. It's not about, who is appealing to whom and who is ignoring whom or disrespecting. It's about the people. That civilians are being bombed, kids are growing up, people are passing away, and it's both the military and not. And it has intensified immensely in the last month. So that's the part where I, as an American, Ukrainian American, have a hard time separating from all of that and saying, well, my life is here in the United States. I'm very lucky. My kids, my kid is going to college. My daughter is in a marching band, and so on. And there'll be one day when I'm crying my eyes out, and another day I have makeup on, and I'm going to go put on a brave face and get things done. So that's what life of a Ukrainian American is right now. Quite often, not everyone, obviously, but because I speak to people in Ukraine, because our philosophy of our family has been to try to help every day. Sometimes I will go and pick up medicine that's being donated by hospitals, and those are good days. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed. This is this early spring where the garage looks like a bit unorganized, and it takes some work, and Elizabeth was there to the rescue. Every day I say to myself, every morning is a new day. We can get something done. And then it comes together, and there you go. Thursday, yesterday, we sent out shipment number 90 since the beginning of the war. And I just want to say a lot of friends have helped, but it was mostly one family packing. So if our family can do this, anyone can try to help and do something. And again, as I said, it's not just our family, but we kind of spearhead the effort. I do have amazing friends like this lady, Lubov Ferrara, who has actually spent, you can see here in my hand, she embroiders Christmas toys and sells them as, souvenirs, and donates all the money. So this medical training arm to help to teach new medics as well as just soldiers how to treat wounds, it was bought thanks to just the money she donated in 1 month. So it's pretty amazing what one person can do, right? Not just me or my family, or this one lady who just needle points and cares. And there are always charity events. Like our commitment has become to put on a charity concert every month. And it's through friends, through contacts, through strangers. I come up to strangers and say, hey, my name is Anastasia. Would you perform at our concert? So we do this all the time. And just this next Saturday, we have a 7-piece band coming to perform. They're quite amazing. And the money we raise at these events, about $3,000 per event or so, we spend on those tourniquets, on the emergency medicine. And, I had to learn a lot about how to raise money. It's really difficult. It really gets you down. But I know that pictures of my dog really help. So often I invite Dasha there to be the star of the pictures. And I, sometimes I'll post pictures of this tracheotomy mannequin to teach how to treat lung wounds. And sometimes, and here you go, by the way, I just wanted to show you an example. So this is me in New Jersey after we bought it. This was about $800 for this training mannequin, and it was shipped to Ukraine. And 10 days later, I get this picture. And this is Dasha, an army medic, and obviously her colleagues. And that's the same mannequin. That's the name of our charity and the date that the help went out. So this is all possible. It's possible to do. It's possible to accomplish. And Dasha sends me messages saying, because of some of the help we were able to provide, people know how to treat wounds, meaning that less people will be lost in war. So I hate saying, oh, we save lives, but it seems that all those things that we do really do save lives, right? And it just takes a little bit of stubbornness and perseverance to keep on going. Oh, and here you go, stubbornness and perseverance. These are my yoga students. I also made a personal commitment as a yoga teacher that I will teach yoga and donate 50% of everything I earn. So sometimes it can be 300 a month, sometimes it might be 800 a month, depending on how many people come. But there's me donating the money from, I think this was June or May of this year, and feeling really proud of that I can make a commitment, stand up, and get something done. And also, these are guys. Lyonya, Dmitro, that's my husband Konstantin. This is our soundman Sasha, Alex. This is Ilya in the front, and we have Vasily in the back. They are all musicians, and the sound man and my husband. And they all performed at one of the concerts. So this is what makes all of this possible. Really strong connections, commitment, asking people, come, join us, help. It really works. This is 3 years of the war concert, and we stand with Ukraine, right? We are Americans, and we will keep on going until they need us. And there'll be small projects. This is an ultrasound machine to help one medical team to transport people and treat them, determine the severity of the wound in the car. And there'll be huge projects, like this is $6,000 that was sent to us by a very generous charity in West Virginia, Sunflower Seeds. We bought a lot of tourniquets with that money. And we get a lot of messages from people in Ukraine. Thank you. We're so grateful, for not forgetting us. And, there can be the small things like allergy medicine or life-saving ones. And I'm so grateful for my family who are always with me and packing something, whether it's warm clothes or not. As you can see, this is a very emotional process for all of us because there's family there, but also because I think it's just the right thing to do. So these are my slides for today. That now I can stop crying and answer any questions if you have any. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Anastasia.
Of course.
There are just a few of us today, but surely we can ask questions. You put it so nicely, and we need some words to Anna, please.
Yeah, I think you are doing so unusual and amazing job. It's something new you offer the world, not only Ukraine, but the rest, to see how it is possible to do. And of course, you're now already a veteran of the humanitarian aid. And that's why I thought maybe you can write a manual for other people who also somewhere would like to do something and help, but you already have experience the best way to support people. And that's my question is, how do you see evolution and future of humanitarian aid in Ukraine? Because situation is changed. What was great at the beginning today should be done in different way. So that's why I think it's might be good recommendations for the United States and Europe, how they can help people in Ukraine. There might be a whole movement, actually. They can see that it is possible to do now. And when we watch news from Ukraine and TV stories, it tells us actually that TV tells us that there are a huge gap between rural area and urban and cities. And sometimes rural people are forgotten. They are not visible. They are not visible, or they even don't demand. They even don't need. They even probably do not know that they can be more, how to say, active, and they should actually voice their voice their concerns. And that's actually also what do you think about this gap? And also my another question, how we can shift from just immediate response to localized approach, especially in Ukraine. Ukraine is a big country and very diverse. So that's why your experience and your recommendations might be very valuable. Thank you.
Well, first of all, you have a gazillion awesome questions, and none of them are really easy ones. And while I can speak with expertise about the things I do know, I gotten into the nonprofit humanitarian world on February 22nd. I did not really do much before that. I was trying to survive being a mom of teenagers, right? And, work and so on. The one thing I can tell you is that my personal belief is that less is more. Less in a sense of, I'm not a fan of big companies. It's not that I necessarily don't trust them or I don't think they're effective. Maybe it's because I was born in Ukraine and I know graft exists and people do misuse a
I'm sorry, Anastasia, your frame is frozen again. If you hear me, please reload. We lost you. We have a connection issue. Apologies. Yep.
I put on the line.
Something about connection. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Now
I
fine.
hope that's better. Okay. So what I was saying is that for me, it's easy. We're so small. I do everything. It's completely accountable both to me and by me, right? I put my own name, Anastasia, on everything that we do. How do you do that in big companies? I don't know, because when we sent checks to big companies like Razum, it almost wasn't enough for me and my husband. We needed to do more than just send money. Like I needed to pack things, I needed to talk to people, I needed to feel exhausted and tired at the end of the day for the right reasons. I do think large warehouses and many people in Ukraine is a dangerous thing because the gap between what we have to access to here in the United States and what they have access to there is just so surreal. You have a lot of very rich people in Ukraine, and then you have a lot of very poor people in Ukraine, and I think it's the disparities, it's a lot more difficult to cope with than it is for us here, right? Here we almost feel if I work hard, if I get a good education, I get a good job, I earn money, right? It sort of makes sense. It's logical. We can work in the same progression. It's not the same progression for people in Ukraine. So when you do have access to getting more, you might cut corners, I guess is what I'm saying, which is why it brings me back to the circle where less is more. The less people are involved in the chain of distributing aid, I think is a little safer. Also, I personally don't believe in volunteers who are getting paid, which to me is an oxymoron. And there's a lot of volunteers in Ukraine who do get paid. So I could work with someone in Ukraine to whom I send the boxes, who then distributes it to people, which would save me enormous amount of time. But no one's willing to do that work for free. And I think if you get paid for volunteer work, that just doesn't fit in my head. I think you need to have a job that pays you money, which is what I do. And then I volunteer for free. So when you do it for those altruistic reasons, whether you have a dad in Ukraine or you have a son who is serving in Ukrainian army, then you can trust that person that they're not going to do the wrong thing, Let's put it this way. So that's my very small village-sized view of what humanitarian aid should be. How do you apply that to the whole country of 40 million? You know, I feel like you need to have someone on the ground who really understands a Western way of getting things done, who really believes in accountability and shows, you know, Ukrainians or Eastern Europeans in general, they respond to strong positions. I don't mean dictatorial or authoritarian, but you cannot be, you know, a wilting flower trying to run a charity organization, just trying to do good. And I'm all about Zen, but at the same time, if you come from a position, let's get things done, this is what you need to do, and it's not about extra paperwork or bureaucracy, but it is about just really following through and teaching, maybe teaching people in Ukraine on what it's like to do the right thing and feel good at the end for not cutting corners, right? Like, I'd rather give more and feel good about that I didn't cut any corners than try to save a few bucks, right? Because it doesn't make sense. You feel like crap at the end of the day, which it's hard for me. I don't think that exists in Ukraine yet, or at least not everywhere. And as far as what it should be for the future, you know, I keep thinking, and it's a bit of an idealistic dream in my head, I keep thinking when the war is over and we don't need to buy tourniquets anymore, I can still raise money because reconstruction will be a huge process. I want to help music schools. Isn't that silly, right? Like, but music, art, that's what helps humanity. So I think maybe focusing on things that you believe in that are important to you, like music is to me, maybe that's the way to go, right? Really make a small and targeted connection with someone and help in that venue instead of trying to save the world. Try to help one small town to improve the quality of their musical instruments. And I actually don't believe in giving money. Believe it or not, I will do anything but to not send money to Ukraine. I believe in sending aid that is very specific and hopefully even used. So we don't send new backpacks, and we sometimes don't even send new boots to the medics. I literally will go and look for used but very good American-made quality, and I would rather send that because it's less likely to be resold or might actually have an extra meaning that it comes, for example, boots issued by the American Army and then sold used. First of all, they'll be better quality than anything new we can buy from China, but also it actually carries that special energy of another strong army to Ukraine. So there's all these sort of levels of psychological and other help, but to help a music school in Ukraine, I wouldn't send the money to them to buy a new piano. Who knows where that money is going to go, right? But there's ways to, maybe not pianos, but there's ways to send other instruments that how many kids here just in my town stop playing an instrument and they're sitting around in someone's closet, right? So there's a way to find those used instruments here, get them to countries that need them, and help in that way. Maybe arrange for teachers to go and train and inspire, right? And teach Ukrainian teachers that there's a new way of sharing knowledge, not just the very strict way that we grew up with, but maybe more nurturing, Americanized to some extent way of educating, which I am fond of. And the last thing, you were talking about disparity between local and large cities. Absolutely, it does exist. And you know, it's a bit of almost like a personal mission of what you choose to do. We've helped, this will sound a little silly, and I'm sorry for our friend in Kyiv, Sergei. I'm from Kyiv, but when we started helping hospitals, I said, we're not going to help Kyiv hospitals. They'll be the first ones that will get aid. They'll be the first ones that are, well, Lviv will be first, but Kyiv will be second. So our personal, I guess, kind of mission was to help people that we know personally. So we started with Kharkiv because that's where my husband's from. So it almost wasn't that we picked Kharkiv because it was so hard hit in the beginning. We picked Kharkiv because my husband's friend's daughter was a nurse in the ER, and she didn't leave that ER for 3 months when the war began because of how many people were brought in wounded. So we could trust that girl, and we sent the aid to her, not to the hospital management. And she was the one to obviously pass it along and so on. But I think the important thing is to find a reliable person with whom you can work. And whether that's a big hospital in Kharkiv or Kyiv or a small town, build relationships. I am all about human relationships, is that when you find that person you trust and you find a way to making sure that aid is accountable for, then you go for it, right? And when we looked for the second hospital to help, I did tell to the trustworthy doctor, said, give me a contact for someone in the small town, someone we can actually, help that doesn't get aid right now. She gave us a name. I have a friend who is a lawyer in Ukraine. I said, can you please cross-reference that this person doesn't have any corruption charges or anything like that? So we do a little bit of that legwork. And she, turns out, her whatever boyfriend was from the same town that this doctor was from, and they knew someone who said he's an amazing person who is like making good changes. So you do the best you can. Can you trust someone 1,000%? 1,000, no, maybe 99, right? And then you really do the best you can with what you got, and hopefully sleep at night. Not always easy every night. But that, to me, what humanitarian aid is, trying to make it personal, trying to make it small, very accountable, and letting people know there that funds are limited. Like sometimes people will ask us for things where, my eyebrows are like jumping out of my head. I'm like, no, we can't do that. That's too much. If we can raise certain amount of money, but what I always do is when they ask for something expensive, I said, okay, you choose. What do you want? 100 tourniquets or whatever that expensive thing is? Or someone said, yes, we need boots all the time. I'm like, okay, it's either boots or tourniquets. Which one do you want? Without doubt, without question, like forget the boots, tourniquets only. So when they're the ones involved in decision making of what is the most important life-saving thing at this moment, that was another thing that helped make it a team effort, not just us, blindly sending something that we think they need. It was a lot more about, you tell me, what do you need the most? If we only have, let's say, $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is we raised that month. Sorry, long answer.
No, that's very interesting. I think it definitely should be a manual, or you share your experience, because it's a very unusual war, and that's why it's a very unusual strategy. And what I noticed, you develop a new art of giving, and you teach them art of receiving. And
Yes.
and now there are monitoring, so might be an evaluation, but then you also have some actually ideas about this. And that's why I think it's something new, and the situation is changing during the each year. And that's why your strategy and also is changed. So I think more people should know what you are doing.
We learn and modify all the time too, like from where we started first year to where we were second year and where we are now. First of all, we are actually able to raise more money this year, which is amazing. But it's probably because of the corporate matches we're able to get for a lot of our donations. And also now before people just gave money and that was it. Now they can actually write things off on taxes. And for some people, it's a big difference. So basically, when you raise more money, it makes you think of like, what's the smartest way? Before it was almost like just patching the biggest wound. And now it's trying to strategize. Okay, so if I have $3,000 this month and I already sent tourniquets, what should it be now? hemostatic bandages or a training mannequin. Like my husband actually has been telling me that training mannequins, and we've already sent, that arm that I was holding with a wound, I didn't show, but it actually has fake blood flowing through it. And when they train on that arm, the soldiers, the medics, they learn how to plug the wound, the hole, to stop the blood from flowing. So if they apply the pressure incorrectly or they apply the tourniquet incorrectly, they won't stop the fake blood flow. But this is what saves lives, is that later on, they'll do it more likely to do it effectively on the actual live person. So instead of just sending a tourniquet that people may or may not know how to apply, I had to learn. I actually went and watched YouTube videos before I traveled to Ukraine, because I knew there was a small chance, but still a chance, I might be in a situation where I get injured or someone else gets injured. I went and I learned how to put on tourniquets. That was scary. I'm like, to think about that. Oh my goodness, I might need to do this on myself. How do I do it, right? With right or left hand. Anyway, so training someone to do that on a mannequin may be more necessary than even providing life-saving medicine that someone else might be able to do, right? So like, this is what also big part of humanitarian aid planning is. What is more important? What is more important right now? What is more important this month? Right? Planning ahead. We have board meetings. We have very small board. We have like 5 people, but trying to think about what's the direction we should go in. And during the last year, I can tell you it's the same direction, no changes. Emergency medicine, sorting what's given to us for free. We're given a lot of medical aid for free. It's not as important as tourniquets, but still, that goes to a few hospitals. And until the war is over, it seems that what they need the most are just things to save lives.
Great. Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you so much for the great question.
Thank you, Anastasia. It's overwhelming, and thank you again for acknowledging our partner organization, the Sunflower Seeds. This is here where we are in West Virginia, tri-state, they call themselves, because we are on the border of Kentucky and Ohio. And this is amazing organization, which I guess found you accidentally, or you found each other. But we know that they do a lot of very important things right here in Huntington, West Virginia. And we are proud of this New Jersey connection, as they call it. How many out-of-state organizations or people do you connect with? Do you have large constituency?
But it's actually, every time you say organization, I mean, you say it, I say it, anyone can say it. I always think that organizations are just people. It's just, John or Victor or Anastasia or Constantine, right? There's always going to be that crazy someone who drives the bicycle. Anyway, so no, we don't really have other organizations that we work with anywhere. We partner at events sometimes with other New Jersey nonprofits, or at least it's not so much a partnership, but we go and support each other. So if they have a concert, we go to their concert. If we have a concert, they come to ours. But it's on a personal level. It's not that they give us money or we give them money, so to speak, right? It's just attendance of an event. I think Sunflower Seeds is the only one. But to be quite honest, I don't really have the time to apply for grants and make connections. Like I have actually, this is sitting on my desk. This is a program from Ukrainian ballet. And the reason I have it from last summer is because it has a list of companies that supported this ballet. So I saved the program for, God knows, more than a year, because I want to reach out to them and say, can you give us money too? I can't even find this page. Oh, here we go. So here's big companies or bigger charities that help and support, and they sponsored this ballet tour. And I keep thinking, oh, we should reach out to them and see if they have grants for whatever, right? For a generator or ultrasound or something else. And I just don't have the time. I mean, I do have the time to negotiate deals on things we need to buy. So, for example, when we do buy medical kits or anything else, I do reach out to the corporate offices and say, we're a nonprofit, so give us tax-free, and can we get 20% off? So that we do. But applying for grants or making new connections with other organizations, unfortunately, we don't have the staff for it. I did try to find an intern, actually, to help us as a college student, for example, who would be, I would say, oh, here's a list of companies, write me a sample letter, try to make connections, and we together try to tackle this. And I can't find anyone for free. We're not able to pay because we need the money for other things. And we've been doing okay for basically every request we've gotten, unless it was a bit ridiculous and expensive. Everything else we've been able to do. And I don't think it's our job to buy an ultrasound or MRI machine, right? Those are $250,000. So I'm not trying to make big projects happen. But, an ultrasound for a medical unit, for a mobile medical unit, we bought that used on eBay for $900. We can do that, right? We actually raised the money in one day just by reaching out to our supporters in our nonprofit. So sometimes it's not about spending too much time on bureaucracy or trying to make impossible projects happen. I believe in doing small but meaningful.
Just to have an idea, a ballpark figure, how many contacts do you have in Ukraine? Is it?
I can show you. I'm not going to show you all the names, but here's my list of contacts in Ukraine that we have helped. So these are the hospitals. This says the ZSU, which is Army. That's Army page 2. I have these handy because I fill out all the declarations. Here's I have one family contact. Unfortunately, others I don't send anyone to. I don't have the time. And this is a maternity ward. So it's 5 pages, 10 contacts each, 50 people. Now, not all of them do we send to every week. Usually it's quite cyclical. People will show up in our lives. We'll check who they are. We do verify that they're in the active forces. And there's such a thing called military, I guess you can say, not certificate. In Ukrainian, it sounds Військовий квиток. So it's like military ticket, but it's not a ticket. It's really an ID, military ID. So I do verify those, and I make sure the person's really serving when they're asking for tourniquets and things like that they're a medic. And usually they'll ask for help a few times in a row, and sometimes then they take a break because they're stuck up, and then someone else will show up and say, we need help. And others, depending on the unit they're with and what purpose that unit serves, they may come back often, like almost every week or every 2 weeks. Or like Yulia Kuba, that's a sunflower seeds person. We send something to her at least once a month.
She is very famous. There was
she is very famous.
Documentary, Cuba and Alaska.
It's coming to the United States in the fall, actually. I'm waiting for the details, but she might come too. So it will be exciting to see her in person again.
Let us know. Maybe she can say a few words here with us. If we don't have any more questions from our few viewers today, you said so much. It is really instructive for anyone who will watch, and we will publicize it. Also, of course, there is a huge, let's say, Eastern European community around you in New Jersey. You probably don't know everyone, but we will try to make sure more people know about your efforts. And thank you. We are a small grassroots group, and we are trying to give people this platform. Not everyone has their own YouTube channel in English to talk about their help. So things like this should not go unnoticed. And again, from the bottom of our heart, we thank you profoundly and hope that more people will learn about you and your amazing family business, or rather, should I say,
Thank you. I'm always
non-profit.
to support. Always, no, I completely understand. Actually, it is a business, the way American
Yeah.
government classifies it. It's just obviously nonprofit, but we are 98% of dollars that we get goes to aid. 2% is credit card fees, just so we don't spend money on anything. Not lawyers, not accounting, not websites. I mean, web hosting we have to pay for, but like everything else is free. But I am really, really, really grateful that you continue to do this every week, because it's a huge commitment to continue with the broadcast. So thank you for inviting me back.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you, and of course, victory to Ukraine. Slava Ukraine.
Слава Україні, героям слава. Дякую.
Героям слава. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.